Hey everybody, it's Sarah. I'm just going to show you guys how I apply my Jamberries. Hopefully this makes it a little bit easier for you guys to understand how they work. I am going to start backwards though a little bit and show you how to properly remove them so that you don't damage your nail. What I like to do is I like to just use regular acetone. You can use fingernail polish remover if you want. Just make sure it doesn't have any conditioning agents in it and make sure it has acetone in it. Another method that you can use is you'll do it the same way that I'm doing this. But you use olive oil, warm olive oil or warm coconut oil if you want to do a more natural organic method. I choose not to do that method because I have really oily nail beds and skin, and the Jamberries do not like to stick to oil, so when I do that method they don't last very long, so I just stick to the plain acetone method. So anyway, here's how you do it. I just put acetone in the cap. Soak your finger for just a few seconds to get a cotton ball so that it don't make a big mess. And then you want to break the seal just a little bit on one edge. And put it back in the acetone for just another few seconds. And can you see how it's kind of bubbling and lifting? That's good. That means it's coming off. So you just want to gently start to peel it off. If you notice that it's tugging a little bit too much, just put it back in the acetone for a couple more seconds. And just continue to peel. And it should just peel right off. Then I take my cotton ball, dip it in the acetone just a little bit, and clean up my nail because it is kind of gooey and sticky. And I also use a base coat underneath mine because my nails are oily, and so I want to make sure and get that base coat off really good too. Okay. Alright, clean. And see if I can get close without making it super blurry. You can tell there's no nail damage, which is awesome. Okay, so prepping your nails to put the jams on is super, super important. If you don't prep them correctly, they will not last. So I want to show you guys how to prep them and then how to apply. So here's how I prep. The first thing that you need to do is clean your nails, get rid of all your cuticles. And we also have what's called invisible cuticles. They're on your nails, but you can't see them. And this was a trick that I learned not actually that long ago, about a month ago. I had been using one of these bamboo wooden orange sticks to remove my cuticles. And I just wasn't getting as good of a seal, I guess. And they weren't lasting as long as I wanted. So I started doing some research. And I came across a video where a lady uses one of these really cool metal, they call them cuticle spoons. One end has the spoon thingy, and the other end has the things you can clean out from underneath your nails. I found this on Amazon. It's awesome. I love it. Anyway, so she uses this, and then she also uses this. Now I'm hoping Jamberry will eventually come out with their own cuticle remover, but until they do, I use this. This stuff works awesome. So here's how I prep my nails. So you take this Instant Cuticle Remover by Sally Hansen. and just squeeze it around the edges of your nails and underneath. And let it sit for about 15 seconds, and don't rub it in. I know a lot of cuticle removers, it has you rub it in, but this one you don't. So just let it sit for a few seconds. They say 15 to 20 seconds. I won't make you guys wait that long though. So then here's what you do. You take your spoon and you push your cuticles back really good. You really want them out of the way because those pesky cuticles, they will lift your jams and it's really annoying. So then as you are pushing back, you'll notice that they start to soften up a little bit. So kind of use the tip of the spoon to, like, I guess scrape off that invisible cuticle. It's not sharp, so it's not damaging your nail. It's just soft or smooth, so it won't damage your nail, but it does get the stuff off. And the cuticle remover helps as well, of course. Okay. Now I'm probably not doing as good of a job at this just because I'm at a weird angle, but that's essentially what you do. And then you'll notice you have some nasty stuff on your cuticle spoon. That's good. Okay. So I take that cotton ball that I had used before and then I just clean my nails with that. Because we're going to wash these later anyway. We're going to wash your hands. Okay, so you would do that with both of your hands. Get them prepped, nice and good to go. Oh, I forgot to do the underneath. Duh. So you can just take this, or if you don't have one of these, you can just take your orange stick, the flattened side. Just kind of go up underneath your nail. That cuticle remover helps to remove the cuticles you have under your nails and any dirt that you have, so that your nails are nice and clean and ready to go. And if you don't have this, you can still use the orange stick with the cuticle remover. I just really like this. Okay, so after you're done cleaning off your cuticles really well, you want to make sure and clean this off because we'll actually be using this for application. Now you don't have to use this, but for me, it works. My jams last longer if I use this, so. But I'll show you how to do that if you so choose to buy one of those. Okay, so at this point after cleaning my nail, then with the acetone, I would go wash my hands. And I always use Blue Dawn dish detergent or dish soap. The reason being is because it's gentle on your hands, but it cuts the grease, so you don't have to worry about extra grease being on your hands. So that's what I suggest, just regular Blue Dawn. Okay, so I would go wash and scrub, make sure that they're really clean. And then I come back and just use regular old rubbing alcohol. And the reason for this is because it is another drying agent to make sure that your fingernails are really dry and the skin around your nails is really nice and dry and free of any grease, oils, you know, those natural oils in your fingers. Because like I said before, the adhesive in the Jamberries, they do not stick to that, so you really want to make sure your nails are clean. Okay, so you would clean with the alcohol. Really good, let it dry. And you would do this with all of your fingers, of course. but I'm just showing you on one because you don't want to watch me do a full manicure. That would be really boring. Okay, so now we get to apply. This is the fun part. So here's my sheet of Jamberry nail wraps. Here, let me turn so you can see. So as you can tell, there's 9 different sizes, and there's 2 different sides. The reason for that is because one wrap will do 2 nails, because we'll cut this in half. So basically what you're getting out of this is you're getting, let's see, a manicure here, depending on which ones you use, a manicure on this side, and then you've got a pedicure over here, a pedicure over here, and then you'll have leftovers. You can use those for accent nails, for different, if you want to use them as accent nails for a different manicure that you do. You can keep them and use them for another pedicure, whatever. So you really get quite a bit out of one sheet when you think about how much you get out of it. So, okay, so here's what you would need to do next. You need to size your nails. Now, I haven't memorized which ones go on which nail, but I would suggest when you first start doing it to write it down so that you don't forget, because it's a pain to have to try to remember each time. So here's how you size them. They're really cool because they're on a clear backing so you can see your nail underneath. So this wrap is the smallest, and that actually goes on my pinky, but I want to show you, I want to show you why this one doesn't work for my pointer finger. Okay, so you put it on your finger and you look. Hopefully you guys can see this. Can you see how it's just too short? It's not... It doesn't cover my nail good enough. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So if I were to go the next size up, which is actually the one that fits, you just keep checking that. But I want to show you this one, why it doesn't work. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that. Do you see how big it is? And how it looks like it's on my skin? You do not want to go too big. It's actually better to go a little bit smaller. The reason for that is because if they touch your skin at all, or your cuticles, they'll just lift and they're not going to last. So it really is better to go a little bit smaller and have some gaps on your edges, which I always do anyway, than it is to have them too big and have them come off. Because nobody's really going to see those gaps except for you. So this one, though, is the one that fits. I'll show you. See how it's... fits on my nail good. I don't know how good you guys are able to see that, and it's a little blurry and kind of weird, but at least I kind of get the idea. Okay, so here's what you would do. So take your, can't see that. Okay, so take your orange stick and lift up the wrap. I like to flip it over and use this side. And then I kind of stick it, see, like that's what's holding it, because you don't want to touch it yet. You can touch it later, but you don't want to touch it yet. And take your handy dandy scissors and just cut it straight in half. Now, at this point, you can pick it up because we'll be filing off the majority of this end anyway, or not filing off, I actually clip them off with nail clippers. So we'll be filing the majority of that off anyway, so it's okay to touch this because that's not going to touch our nails. What you don't want to touch is the stuff that's going to be touching your fingernails. Oops. So especially the rounded part and up. Now, I said earlier that I use a base coat because my nails are oily. I'm not going to show you guys that right now, but I'll show you what I use. I use our Jamberry Strengthening Base Coat. Makes my nails stronger, but it also really helps for them to adhere well. Our nail lacquers are free of toxins, so you don't have to worry about nasty stuff if you choose to use this. We also have a smoothing base coat that helps to fill in ridges if you happen to have kind of rigid nails, or if you're trying to maybe grow them out from acrylics or something like that. But anyway, this is the kind I use. This is the strengthening base coat. And so of course I would apply that and then let it dry before I apply my wraps, but I do the whole process of prepping them first, then I do the base coat, and then I would apply the wraps. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my handy dandy mini heater on. This one's new. It's really quiet. You can hear it a little bit, but it's not super loud. It's really cute. It has a stand on it. That's the end where the heat comes out. It has felt on it so that you don't touch any metal. Our old one didn't have that, and it was a lot bigger. You can still buy the old ones, but these ones are way better. And of course you can use a hairdryer. They work just as well. These are more convenient just because they're a lot smaller. They are at the right angle, they get to the right heat. So if you end up becoming a huge Jamberry lover, I would suggest that you would invest in one of these because it's so totally worth the $19. So, anyway, so here's how I apply them. Every single video you watch is going to be different. The application video from Jamberry Corporate is different. But this is how I do it because this is what works for me. I have really curved nails this way. I don't know if you guys can tell that, how they're really curved like that. Makes it hard for me to apply mine sometimes, so this is a method that I found that really works. And it also works for women who have flat nails. It just, for me, I found that it works for a lot of women. So this is the method that I show when I do in-home parties. So what you do is you take your nail wrap, which this is iced, by the way, one of our new wraps. Super pretty. It's not quite that vibranty like teal, it's more of a sea green color, but it's my lighting, but it's still really pretty. Anyway, so I put it, hopefully you guys can see this, just at the base of my nail. And you want to make sure that you don't go onto your cuticle. It's okay, it's actually a little bit better to go down a little bit so that your cuticles have room to grow. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I got it kind of on there a little kooky, but I'll fix that. So you kind of just want to look at it, see if it's even, see if it needs to move around a little bit, which is what I just did, so now it looks better. And I do that cold. I don't heat it up yet. The reason I do that is because I want to be able to move it. So at this point is when I heat it. So you put it in front of the heater for a few seconds. These are metallics. They curl really bad, but it's not really a big deal because you smooth it out anyway. You want to get them pretty hot. And then just get that out of your way. Just push it down the center, but you don't want to push your edges yet. So see, right now I've just pushed down the center. The edges are still up. The reason for that is because when you push down the center, it kind of like flattens it so that when you put it over your edges, it's a nice, smooth application. If you were to do it from side to side, that works for some women, but for women with curved nails like mine, it doesn't work. If you were to do it from side to side, you would get some bubbling and puckering along your cuticle, and sometimes even on the edges. So if you just do that method, just push down in the center, that works perfect. Okay, so now we're going to heat again. Now we're just going to heat one side though, because we're not going to push both sides down yet. We're just working on this one. So heat it up till it gets really hot and it kind of burns, but that's good. It's a good burn. And then kind of push down that side. You want to kind of work from, I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing. You want to work from the inside out, kind of like a windshield wiper. And push down. See how it's... Now, I know that looks bad, but we cut all that off, so it's not a big deal. See how I have a gap? That's okay. Nobody's going to be able to see it once it's done anyway. Okay, so then just do the other side. So heat the other side really good. Ouch. And same thing. Just kind of push from the inside out. Okay. So when you're applying these, lots of heat and lots of pressure. The more heat and pressure you use, the better of a seal you're going to get, the longer they're going to last. So after I have it on my whole nail, then I go ahead and heat it again. And I press from the center out and really just push it down and really get that adhesive stuck to your nail. The adhesive that's on the back is cured by heat and pressure. That's why we use the heat. I don't know how it works. All I know is it works and it's awesome. Okay, so at this point then, and I always work from my pinky to my thumb, but you would do this on every single nail. Leave this on. I call them my witch fingers. The reason being is because you want them to cool completely before you do any sort of trimming on them. So, so I do my whole entire hand, putting the wraps on, and then I go back and I start to trim. So obviously, since I'm not doing my whole hand, I'll go ahead and trim this one and show you guys what I do. So then, this is my next step. In the main video, they show to use a nail file and to file straight down, like, you guys can see that, like this. I do that at the end, but I use a buffing block because it gets off the rough edges. But to actually take the wrap off itself and to get the excess off, I don't do that because for me, it makes them too rough on the tip and I don't like the way it feels. So I take and I turn my finger over and I face it towards me so that I can see my nail underneath, and just take your scissors and cut as close to your nail as you possibly can. You don't have to cut it off or cut the nail off with it because we will do that in a minute. So then you have this little excess which you don't want to keep if you've touched it. Now if you use tweezers to apply those and you have not touched this with your finger at all, you can keep this, put it back on here and use it for other applications, however you want to do it. A lot of people do that. I don't have the patience. So now we've trimmed it off and you can see it's kind of rough around the tip because we have that excess stuff. So this is where I use nail clippers. This is a pretty cool another little tip that I learned. You can use whatever nail clippers you like. I just bought these. They do have some that come in the application kit from Jamberry. I just think that they're a little bit too narrow. I like them to be a little bit wider, like that. But it's totally personal preference. So anyway, so here's a really cool tip. Okay, so we're going to trim our nail with the wrap. That way they they're like clamps together. But here's what's really cool. Okay, so heat the nail clippers until they're pretty hot. Obviously you don't want to burn yourself, but heat them until they're pretty warm. Okay. And then go in and trim just a teeny tiny bit of your nail off with the wrap. And it's okay if they're not perfectly square because that's where we're not perfectly rounded or square, however you do it. Because we'll use the buffing block to finish shaping it and get any excess off. So that's kind of what that looks like. at that point. Okay, so then this is where I use the buffing block. The buffing block that we provide, I use as a finisher. So I had, because it's not quite rough enough, coarse enough, so I just went and got this kind of cool buffing block that has a bunch of different sides on it. And you can use this for filing your nails, which is really cool. So it's really neat because it's a all-in-one tool. I'm hoping that Jamberry comes out with all this stuff. Okay, so I use the white side. This is going to be kind of awkward, but you do that downward motion like this. You do not want to do it side to side like this because that roughs up the edge, the tip. So just like this. What that's doing is it's taking any excess off that might be there. It's also shaping your nail. So that's really cool. So you just do that until everything is gone. If you notice that you have a little bit of a straggler, just go in and clip it off. If you can't clip it, just get your... There we go. And then just finish it off. Oops, sorry. Okay. So that's what it looks like, and then I take the buffing block that you can get if you buy the application kit. This is really nice and smooth, and it does a really good job of just smoothing your nails. And same thing, just like this. Gets those ends nice and smooth. And now it should be smooth and it looks beautiful. So here's the next tip, where my handy dandy metal spoon pusher or cuticle spoon comes in. If you don't have this, this is what you would do instead, because you want to seal it one more time. So you heat it up really, really, really good. And just push. Use as much pressure as you can. I suggest using your thumb rather than this finger, because if you try it, you'll notice when you do this, you don't have as much pressure. Do this, and you can push hard. And it doesn't hurt it to push hard. It's actually what you need. So you would just do that a couple of times until you really feel it's on. Now, any that are sparkly like this or metallic, they require a little bit more heat and pressure than the regular wraps, but not a ton more. But you know, it's a good thing. It's a good idea to just do more. Not a big deal. Okay. So now this is where this comes in. So you heat it really, really good. And this is why I like the rubber one, because then it doesn't get hot. But you heat this until it gets really hot, like almost too hot to touch. Okay. And then what I do is I take it and I rub it along the edges, along the back, and then I kind of take it like this on the ends, or the tips. I keep saying ends, but they're the tips, and it's almost like heat sealing it in a way. And I do this probably 2 or 3 times, because I really want to make sure that they stay on. I do change mine out every week, but that's just because I get bored. But for the week that I have them on, I want them to stay on good, and I want them to look good. I just kind of put pressure. And that's it. You'll get faster at it the more you do it. It obviously doesn't take me this long to do ones and when I'm not saying how it's done, but you know, the step-by-step directions. But that essentially is how I apply them and how I have found that they work the best. You'll find your own technique. That's what I like. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment on the post, and I will help you guys out. Have a great night. Bye.